Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. Probably a longer form one now because contrary to my popular personal belief that I didn't know if people would like the longer rambly yap-y videos that I put out. I enjoy doing those a lot because I get to just say whatever and you're just gonna listen. And as opposed to the other shorter form content that I've been experimenting with, like the two covers. I enjoy doing that a lot actually. Kind of, if you watch the what's it called, the King video, you get to witness the process in which I struggle with the entire thing, and I think the actual music starts at like the 9 minute mark, like the full actual good music. And the guided visualization mindfulness exercise is also really enjoyable because during my time as a therapist last year, I essentially created like a script to just do that, like a body scan thing with, and I just decided to put it out because why not? People find it useful, feel free to use it. Credit me obviously, but because I made the thing. So, I guess I was thinking about what to talk about because boy, are there many things to talk about in life. There is a million and one topics, and I could probably go on for a long time for some of them. Maybe not all of them, probably not all of them. I'm not exactly intuitive about like the machinations of making an oak wood table. No, I'm like, it's a table. I write on it, eat on it if I feel like it, and that's about it. That's all I do. But I think I finally sort of narrowed down the one thing I want to talk about, which is just my relationships, right? And let's see. There's a story I want to share with everyone, and this is something that has happened probably 10 years ago, probably more than that. It started when I was 12, so it's been at least 10 years, and I haven't thought about this story in a very, very long time. I'm not sure how or why it came up, but I decided to just take it and run with it because that's just what I do as a person. I just do things and see where it goes. Somewhat whimsical way to live life, but that's just how I do it. So, 12 years old. It all started when I was 12 years old, and for those who still remember what a school is, that is primary 6, which is the final year of primary school. Boy, those were the days. For those of us who remember primary school, my condolences, because no one ever remembers the good old days, only the trauma-filled ones. Maybe you do, in which case, good for you. And it all started on a sweltering, probably Saturday night, where I was asleep, fortunately, and there was this girl, right? There was this girl named Amethyst in my class. It's not her real name, but honestly, if someone was named Amethyst, I would probably like go and pursue them just like for the principle of the name itself. If you're named after a mineral, that means you're probably pretty valuable, right? And so there's this girl named Amethyst. She was relatively well off, probably pretty wealthy. Lived in a big house. Her chauffeur drove a big car, and she showed up to school with ye old accoutrements of status, where, well, back then there wasn't a lot of that, to be fair. She didn't have like LV bags for like her school bag or anything. It was the way she presented herself you know? Like, people in different social tiers have a different upbringing and different socialization metric and vector in how they present themselves. So you could definitely tell that she was like in like a higher social status kind of circle that she would run around in. Although there was also like some of the more mischievous, or I like to describe as like more human traits about her, where she would be a little bit brash, a little bit naughty, and get your mind out together. She's 12, and yeah, it was just, I suppose, this amalgamation of characteristics was really what enamored me towards her. Because that same night, coming back to the sweltering Saturday night, it was probably Thursday, but whatever. I had a dream. I dreamt that I was sleeping. Riveting story so far. I was dreaming that I was sleeping, and then I was waking up. Excuse me. And I woke up in my dream. So it was kind of like a lucid dream, but not really, because I wasn't really in control of it. I was just aware that I was sleeping and dreaming. So like, there was two ways this could go down, right? Either I was gonna have like the time of my life, or like the Baba Yaga is about to burst through the door and sit on my chest, a la sleep paralysis, right? It was the former, thankfully, because I saw from the door opening in my room that it was her. It was Amethyst, just standing there. She had long, sort of, well, shoulder length, like, was it lavender at that time? Yeah, it was lavender. Shoulder length lavender hair. They allowed like female students to have long hair if they were in the dance club, and she was. So she had a pretty nice like petite frame. Okay, before it gets weird, this was me describing her when she was 12, how I saw her when I was 12. So, right, it's all above board for now. And so yeah, she was there in her. I always thought that she looked really good, because dancing does that to a person, like, you know, really shapes out their figure. And it couldn't have lasted more than like, I don't know, a few seconds maybe. No, it was like a half 30 seconds probably. And for whatever reason, after I woke up properly this time, no Baba Lai Saga on my chest yet. It was after I woke up that for whatever reason, my mind decided in that moment, just from that fever dream pitch 30-second Broadway show that my mind put on for me, that this was the one. This girl was the one. She was the one for me. And I remember feeling the absolute elation and terror of that, because I had essentially just fallen for Amethyst in a night. Overnight is what they say. And before this, I never really, I mean, she was great. She was pretty, she was talented, she was smart, she was witty, she was what everyone, you know, wanted at that age, you know. If you were her parent, you were proud of her. If you were her friend, you were glad to have her as a friend. If you were a guy, you're hoping that no one else thinks the way you do, because that means everyone wanted her, and everyone did. And I was a part of that cohort just overnight. Just one day, that day, I woke up and I'm like, God damn it. Because now I was enamored. Absolutely smitten, by the way, to use some of the old British slang. Smitten. And there began my probably 4-year obsession with Amethyst. boy, that was a ride. It was quite traumatic, but it was a ride. So, here's the thing about Amethyst. Remember how I said she was in one of the upper echelons of society as it stood back then, where you could tell that someone was wealthy and rich and all of that stuff? Yeah, I wasn't that. Like, I was not in that circle. I was like in a square, probably somewhere, like a hexagon maybe, but definitely nowhere near that sphere. I was, boy, what was I like back then? I was timid. I was hungry for affection. I was overweight, fat. I was quite fat back then. It's no wonder I don't have pictures of myself in the past because, boy, evidence. It's like reverse exposure therapy. It's like the re-traumatizing thing. If you're in therapy, you probably know what that means. And I was essentially, I had nothing in common with this girl except for the fact that we went to the same school with the same classes most of the time, and that there was the entire class that knew about my obsession with her because of how unsubtle I was about it. And see, you know how I said I wasn't a lot of things back then? I forgot one thing. I also wasn't very smart. I'm very like emotion guided, I would say. That's probably a more charitable way of describing myself, right? So I just began to obsessively like chase after her, like not in any like normal human way though, because despite my irrational yet stranglehold esque obsession towards her, I was somehow in the same breath incapable of approaching and processing those emotions like a normal human being would. Now, granted, I was 12 at the time, and we all know 12-year-olds are insane. So I suppose I can cut myself some slack there. The thing was, thinking back, I'm just cringing at myself, and that's a good sign that you've grown as a person, because if you look back at yourself and you're just like, if you're not going like, oh, what was I doing? Mountain Dew with the sugar bombs? God. If you're not doing that, then there's been no growth. And unless you're like a turtle, that's not great. So, hey, credit where credit's due, right? So, back to the story. I would just try and put myself in situations where she would also be in the same things as I would. Well, it's not that crazy now I think about it. It's just what every 12-year-old would do, I guess. So, like the classes she would take, the things that she would like to do, all of that, I would try to insert myself into, and with varying degrees of success, naturally, because I don't know if you know this, but it's actually very difficult to enroll in a all-girls dancing troupe if you're a guy. It's all just social constructs, so I would say one could say that I was a victim of gender norms even when I was 12. And looking at myself now, not a lot of that has changed. Anyways, so the dancing, right? The putting myself in situations that she was in, that I wanted to be with her in, it didn't go very well. And then, lo and behold, we graduated very, very soon after that, because that was like half a year in that I decided to completely lose my inner self in the pursuit of another. And that's a prophetic statement because it's going to come back up in a bit. So we move on to secondary school. And You know how I said that she was definitely a person. Her family definitely had the money. So with money comes power. With power comes the ability to choose. Options become more available to you because of the choices that you can make, because of the available resources that you have to spend. And so she was really smart already, so that was a no-brainer. So of course, Amethyst got into one of the most at that point prestigious secondary schools. It's like, if anyone knows what this is, it would astound me because I don't know if this concept even exists anymore. It was a cluster school, but it was like higher than that. It was like high prestige something school. It was essentially about where like the students have achieved either like exceptional results, or they were really good at kicking a ball, or like knocking someone over in rugby, or they're like, yeah, just all of these. A school that has students of remarkable achievement, where the students were great, where the teachers were underpaid, where the principal embezzled millions, things like that, right? Just a normal secondary school cluster, high prestige thing. And so she wasn't there, as well as most of her friends. I was not, right? So I really liked English at that point in time. I'm a fan of the language, if you can't tell. And throughout my perusal of the various avenues open to me for my secondary education, I saw a title, two words. It's two words. I saw a school, and it was named simply English College. And for a second, my heart stood still, because the name, the word English was in its name. Like, how fated was that to me, right? It's like if you love, what's a good analogy for this? It's like if you love cake, and then you see somewhere that says like, I don't know, patisserie. It's not a very good example, but you get what I mean. It's just like, well, I have to go there now because I love English, and English is on the title. So how can that thing be bad? Spoiler alert, it was horrible. It was absolutely horrendous. It marked the start of probably the 5 worst years in my life. But barring that, that was what I chose. I chose to go into English college, which, by the way, was not, what's it called? It was false advertising. It was a government school. I mean, granted, they were all government schools, but there was barely any English to be had in there. The teachers were Malay. Most of the things were conducted in Malay. But I digress. So the point is, Amethyst and I were geographically displaced from each other, to her undoubted relief and my chagrin. And here's the thing though, they say time heals all wounds, and space allows those wounds to scar. Unless you're an extremely obsessive and delusional individual who anchors their ultimate destiny, apparently, on the idea of a person. Then time is just a grindstone to refine that ever sharp, warped, and twisted blade that eventually is just gonna cut you up, because that's pretty much what happened with me. And honestly, I was surprised at my own tenacity, that I was able to to hold on to that image of her. And here's the key too. Note that I'm saying the image of her, not her. And this is going to be relevant in a second because basically what I had in mind in regards to her was that I had placed all of my how can I describe this in one word? All of my aspirations, all of the things I never really had in life onto her. There was this idea in my head about her that somehow fulfilled everything that I needed. That the affection I never really had, a pain-free experience of love and affection, of validation without it being tied to examples and achievements that were apparently needed to prove my worth. So in a sense, it wasn't really Amethyst that I was anchoring myself to. It was the idea of, there's that again. Hold on, let me just fix this real quick. Nope, still there. Let's hope it goes away. I'm just gonna go through it. There you go. So it was the idea of Amethyst that was what I really coveted, was what I yearned. And as I was going to discover, conflating the idea with the person is a harsh lesson to learn. And this marked the beginning of what is, to this day, a lifelong lesson about self-worth, self-esteem, and the meaning of relationships for me. Now, back to the story. So, she was in the high prestige school. I was in the English college, right? Remember that. Mr. False Advertising and Co. So, it would not be out of left field to say that most of the things I did for an imaginary pool of approval of her in my head. I hated studying, by the way. I detest institutional education because of my experiences, because you learn what you have to learn, and to call that learning would blaspheme against the concept of learning itself. I had long since made the distinction between learning and education, and boy, let me tell you, there are some points that intersect and a whole bunch that don't. At least if you're in government school. Actually, no. I think that's just schools in general. I hear Finland has pretty good reformations about it, so good for them. So I detested learning, and I pushed myself to achieve, to get good grades, and turns out if I was able to put my mind to something, I was pretty good at it. I yield pretty good results. Again, all about achievement and none of the internal values that do a little thing that we nowadays call a healthy sense of well-being. Now all of that didn't matter in the past. It was all about the A's and the 90s, 95. If you got 95, why didn't you get 96? If you got 96, why didn't you get 100? If you got 100, why couldn't you do that for your other subjects? It's a very collectivist sentiment. It's definitely a zeitgeist. And I detested being in that sphere, yet I was able to do it. I got pretty good grades. Not even just decent. I got like good grades. Like, well, in this case, oh, it's been so long. Like A's, I guess. A's and B's. B's would be the lowest. And I would do all of that on the predication that if I did this, then she would be proud of me. I would be able to impress the person in my head, and through whatever transcendent or epiphanic a line, that the real Amethyst would somehow receive and approve of these interactions, of this approval. And call it what you will, but for the first few years, I did pretty well for myself, academically at least. Well, also extracurricularly. I was, you know that thing I was talking about just now about trying to put myself in the same circles, doing the same things that she did in the hopes that that we would cross paths. I call that artificial luck. Yeah, I kind of did that too in my secondary school in English college. I was the whip for my debate team for 3 years and 3 years running, and I did most of it. I did out of interest because I just loved speaking, and there was a part of me that hoped, prayed. I'm not religious, but prayed that somehow she would be there, because she was also a pretty proficient debater too in her own right. Oh, so I heard. I never actually saw her at any of our debate meets, but that was besides the point. I developed a healthy, I suppose, one of the only things I developed, a healthy concept and love, I guess, for discussion and debate. Contrary to popular belief, debate isn't about who's right. It's about who has more money. So, there were many things that I did that I attributed to this, almost this worship of this person, of Amethyst. And this went on for years. For the first 3 years of my secondary school, I blazed a trail in my heart, in my mind, in the apparent service of her, this delusion of her. And this is coming to a head because on the 4th year of my secondary school, when I was 16, some of my classmates in my English college classroom, where the walls had paint peeling off of them, where the fans had probably not been serviced since before the Japanese invaded, and it was like 100 years old. Explains why its systems are so archaic. And so yeah, my classmates, one of them. So remember how I said it was unsubtle that I liked Amethyst? Yeah, it remained so through my journey into secondary school. And even schools apart, it was also known, my infatuation was also known to probably the next few neighboring schools as well. Because again, subtlety was not my strong suit, still not mine. And one of my classmates, that came up to me and he said, I was in an all-boys school, and he said, "Hey, you've obsessed over this girl. You've thought, you've liked, you've wanted her for so long. Don't you think that it's time for some action? You know? Do you want to like her forever? Don't you want some closure?" And for those of you who picked up on the obvious shift in tone, it was because that these words were said not out of compassion, but out of essentially the same face someone would pull when they were lighting the fuse to what was like a very overloaded fireworks carriage, right? So he was there basically egging me on, and if I had been more aware or less in my head about the possibility of Amethyst, finally, I I could make what's in my head real. Like it could be real. If I if I had if I was not so caught up in my own dreams, I probably would have seen the rest of the group, the gaggle, sort of snickering behind the person who told me. But I didn't, because this marked the beginning of the end. It was a Thursday when I was 16. It was 4 p.m. It was sweltering again because, boy, there were no trees around ever where I lived back then. I had this old Nokia 8810. You know, the kind where when you dropped it, the first thing you would do was check if the tiles were cracked. Yeah, it was one of those. And I had her number in my phone. I don't remember why or how I had Amethyst's contact. I suppose it was just something that I either obtained through a delirious fever one day, or I was I was a I was passionate enough to be a sleuth for information of anything regarding her. Oh boy, that's creepy, isn't it? Well, it's a good thing that it's a good thing. Don't worry about it. And so I had her number in my phone, and the same sentence that my classmate told me replayed in my head over and over again, and this specific word came up. Wouldn't it be nice if you had closure? The word closure stuck with me. It stuck with me because there was a part of me that wanted closure. Throughout my fantasies, my dreams, my hopes, my delusions of Amethyst in my head, there was a part of me who knew that this wasn't real. None of this was real. I can hope, I can wish, I can do my best to manifest it maybe somehow. But that's not reality. This is reality. As I picked up that light blue casing, punched in the numbers, and felt more alive and more terrified than I ever have felt in a very long time. You know how they say there are situations where a minute feels like a year? Whether that's you in a lecture, or that's you in a meeting that very well could have been an email, or you're calling someone who you haven't even attempted to contact for 4 years, but somehow she lived in your head for the entirety of those 4 years. However excruciating that year-long minute could have been, it did not compare in any way, shape, or form to the feeling I had when the line went to voicemail. So it went to voicemail, right? It was diverted. The call was diverted. She was busy. She didn't pick up. And any normal, sane person would have been just like, oh, I guess I guess she's busy. I can just call back later. I was not that person. I dialed again. Faster this time. Harder. I pressed them with more force than was necessary. My heart could not stand the possibility of me dragging this on, because what I didn't realize when I when I pressed call on her phone, there was a part of me that didn't want to go back anymore. The delusion was cracking. And this is what is known in therapy as idealization and devaluing of a person. I didn't realize that was what I was doing, but it was, because as my second attempt at connection went to voicemail again, my perfect image of her cracked again. In my head, she was perfect. She would attend to my needs. She would fill the void of attention, affirmation, validation in me that no one did, that I so desperately looked for. And she would not ignore me like the people in my life have. She would not. I refused to accept that. And so I dialed again. And this third time, I was resolute. I was convinced that I would call until she picked up, until she gave me an answer, until I got what I wanted. And it was at that exact moment where the line connected. And the voice that said hello on the other end was not hers. That if my image of her was cracking at the seams with the two voicemail diversions, this one sent a starburst of cracks through the center of this image. Because she had a life. She had a life. She had a completely different path from the one that I was thinking about. And when I realized that the voice that spoke through was a guy, a million thoughts came and went and came and went, and so did every accompanying emotion to each of those thoughts in unison. Through that 1 minute, I felt like I had just run a marathon. I was intense. It was intense. And I couldn't speak. And the voice repeated the word, hello? And then I heard people. I heard laughter in the background. I was no stranger to being bullied, to being mocked, to being teased, to being pushed around, ignored, having doors slammed in my face, having my bag being stolen because it was funny to watch me fumble. I was no stranger to it. But this was different. This was different. This broke me on many levels. I decided that I couldn't deal with it, so I hung up. And it turned out that, like I said, the things that I had felt for her was anything but subtle. And so her friends had also knew what my number was. And apparently some of them had intercepted her call either out of portended friendship or a jealous rampart, probably, to stop me from interfacing with her, which didn't hurt any less, but it's an explanation. And after that, any normal human would be like, it's okay, we're good, just take a second, take it easy, take a load off, and stop calling her. And I did, on her phone, on her number at least. See, there was this thing in the past. I might be dating myself here. Story of my life. I might be dating myself here, but there was this thing called landlines back in the day, where each household had a landline that people called with other landlines ideally, otherwise the bill would be through the roof. The bill is also through the roof if you use it too much, so capitalism runs rampant in our society either way. So yeah, there's this thing called landlines, and I was crazy enough to call the landline. Why, you may ask? That's a fantastic question. You know why? Because I figured if I called her house, the only people that would pick up were her family. And in an age where I had my own phone already, let me tell you, having to live through calling someone's house and being terrified that the father picks up, it's something else, man. There's nothing quite like it. That mixture of trepidation yet electrified excitement of the possibility that that the person that you are calling picks up. There's that naughty almost excitement of threading the needle, so to speak. I called one night and the father picked up, I think, or was it the mother? Either way, I called a few times because I never said I was rational. So the first time it picked up, the mom said that she wasn't home. That's fine. I called the next night and the mom picked up and said she wasn't home. And, well, they say 2 is a coincidence and 3 is a pattern. So obviously I had to verify, so I called again. And the third time, her dad picked up, and I'm like, oh, shit. So her dad picked up, and upon knowing that it was me, he, in no uncertain terms, said, stop calling this number, and hung up. So at that point, just to take you through the motions, I was already, my world was sort of crashing down around me. My family, I'm not gonna get into that right now, but let's just say my family wasn't exactly the poster picture of mental health. And I had been struggling with bouts of anxiety and depressive symptoms and a general lack of motivation as my shrine to Amethyst was crumbling at the foundations. And this did not help in the structural integrity of this shrine. My motivation was going away. I was very much not caring about what I did in school or with myself in general, because the reason for me being alive was being swept away. And after that call, that thing where Amethyst's father told me to never call again, it was rock bottom. I woke up late. I didn't eat or ate too much, mostly too much. I didn't do my homework, not that it mattered very much. I screwed up a prefect duty. I'm just gonna keep going because apparently it's fine if I do. I had prefectorial duties. I was a prefect back then. Was I a prefect back then? Yes, I was. And it is at some point, at the lowest point that I could think of at that point, rock bottom, I rented an excavator because I got this bright idea of, hey, rejection doesn't mean anything to me, because that's a whole other topic for another time. Saying no, that's another video I want to do, which is my relationship and possibly yours with the word no. I decided to go over to her house. Yeah. Yeah. It has officially breached into the boundary of creep at this point. Back then, I mean, most of you probably say, I don't know what you would say, but for me, it was a fever-pitched bout of passion that incited me to do what I did. This was me trying to salvage any semblance of that motivation that I had. And to reignite, or at least preserve, the smoldering embers of what little hope I had left of that cracked, broken, fractured image into a reality. So I put on my best shirt. I didn't have a lot back then. It was a long sleeve checkered shirt. It was flannel. If I was a girl, I'd probably be dubbed a lesbian by anyone who would see me. It was blue and had blue stripes. And I wore slacks about 42 size. It was beige. So, if I was a 33-year-old budding car salesman that wanted to make it big in the world, I'd be dressed right up for that. But I wasn't. I was a jilted lover. Well, that's a pretty rich word for me to use, I suppose. A imaginary jilted lover who was seeking redemption, or possibly a complete Twilight. I don't know why I use that example. I hate that thing. Some The Fault in Our Star stuff. Oh, that's pretty. It's actually a bit more apt than Twilight, because if you don't know, the guy in there dies at the end, and that's kind of how it went down for me, except it was internal. Girl was fine though. Went on to marry whoever else. Wow, that's some Fault in Our Star stuff right there. So I went over to her place, fully expecting to be accosted, because who the hell goes over to someone's place unannounced without knowing if they were at home or not? Their parents could be home. Their dog could be home. I had no idea. And for whatever fate-weaved destiny, or whatever deity, or just sheer chaotic coincidence, it was just her. It was just her. And I remember thinking, oh man, the fates, those threads are with me. Turns out that fate was just a trio of cruel pranksters, because what transpired was probably much more brutal than if I was allowed to brood with that crumbling necropolis around me of her image and my delusion of her and us being like married and had a nice place and stuff. So I walk in, she was there, her maids were there, which was nice, I guess, because then at least she wouldn't be like murdered and quartered. Not by me, but you know. So I walked in and I sat down at a really lavish china laid glass table with the couches that looked like they were imported from Japan. Probably were. They were really soft. And I don't really remember what I talked about. I know I said something to the line to the tune of, "I'm sorry if my actions have caused you disturbances." Not exactly those words. I was probably much more incoherent then. But I definitely apologized for my actions, for my infatuations, my engrossness in her. And it was about an hour, I think. And after that hour, I remember leaving the house with a light step but a heavy heart. Crossing the road, not even bothering to look both ways, not even one way, to where my mom was in the car waiting for me. Getting in, slamming the door, and allowing her to whisk me away to wherever. And that was the day where my dream, my motivation, my anchor officially cracked. I fell into a deep, chronic depression for the next few years, along with bouts of anxiety, of doubt, of cripplingly low self-esteem, and funnily enough, I never blamed any of this on Amethyst. I wasn't capable of doing that at that point in time. Looking back, I suppose there were things that we both could have done differently, but we didn't. And that's that. Looking back at it now, I realized that the infatuation with her, with Amethyst, was a signal, a symptom of something else. Of the fact that I wasn't feeling secure in my own skin with my own family, that I coveted someone else to give me what I never had and what I've always wanted. And it was strong enough. That yearning is strong enough for me that it literally drove me forward. It drove me forward. I was doing well in my studies. I was doing well in my extracurricular activities. I was doing well. But it wasn't because I wanted to. It was because I thought it would satisfy someone else. That Amethyst would give me validation, affirmation, approbation, acknowledgement, presence. She didn't. And that's no one's fault. Does it hurt? Agonizingly. The other two relationships I've been in the last few years have denoted that this struggle, this emptiness that I feel, of feeling chronically alone, and fundamentally unsure of how to make connections with people bled through all of my relationships, romantic, familial, platonic, even workplace. I was under the impression that I needed to be useful. To be useful to people, to be worthy of the things that I wanted and the things that I needed. That me not feeling safe ever in my own family, in my own house, in my own room was normal. That not being told what was wrong, but being punished for it all the same, was normal. That going through your day with no clear foundation, no clear anchor, no identity to speak of, but the ones others have ascribed to you and the ones I have molded myself around, was normal. It's not. It was normal for me. Common, familiar, comforting even in the relationships that I've been in. And I've acted out in my own right, behaved in ways that I was used to. Things that I hope, I wish, I try to amend, to remand, to alter, and to improve on. I think this somewhat bleak outlook on relationships have both caused me, at least partly, to enter and remain in circumstances, not just relationships, but circumstances and situations that were, that were not beneficial for me at best and actively detrimental at worst. Because if there was one thing that I had learned in life, it was that love is pain, and pain is love. It's not. It's not. I found that the two concepts were so intertwined, were so synonymous to me, that I had very little perspective on any other form of love, because I was seeking out and perpetuating the same. I was used to it, comfortable. And so, when people didn't tell me what they didn't like, I created my own reasons for them not to like me, and behaved accordingly. Conversely, when people did bad things, hurtful things, neglectful, abusive things to me, I accepted them. Because it was normal. It's what I've been living with all my life. How can that be wrong? And the two elements within me, this void, this hole that I doubt really anyone in the world will be able to fill, not even myself, and the familiarity and comfort of roles that I was used to playing, both probably had a hand in influencing what it was, the relationships that I kept and those that I shunned, and the feeling that people just didn't like me permeated my being. And now, crack. Now I'm alone. The Amethyst incident has been the trigger for many, many things in my life, as has many other things. The trigger towards understanding myself, understanding what it is I feel right now, every day, and treating myself with compassion, of allowing the emotions as intense and as complex and as difficult and as overwhelming as they are to just be, to just stay. You know, I sometimes wonder about this as a therapist. How can I help others in areas where I myself continue to be stymied? And I realize that I can. I can do a lot of things. Now I am alone, of my own volition. Does that mean I don't want to be with someone? No, that chamber within me, it will echo, probably forever, or until I find someone that's right for me. And there's the key. Finding someone that's right for me is a very recent epiphany that is fundamentally at odds with what I've wanted my whole life. Me jumping into relationships to fulfill that hole versus looking for someone that is compatible, that's right, that works with me, for me. And being alone, as painful as it usually is, it's really given me a lot of space to discover myself again. And boy, it's quite a ride being me. It's great though. I wouldn't have it any other way. Right now, I don't really know what the future will hold. I'm in a transitionary period. I just finished graduation. I just ended my master's degree. I am reaching sort of a deadlock, looking for jobs that suit me. I am grieving every day for the last few months of the relationships, feeling that trauma in my heart continue to roil and fester, and sometimes it rears its ugly head. I'm also making videos, playing games, baking, cooking, looking for things to occupy myself with. And all in all, honestly, I'm pretty lucky. I'm pretty lucky. It all sucks still. Like most of what I feel I experience has sucked. But I'm still pretty lucky. I feel. I have a I don't have to worry about a lot of things yet. Be that as it may, let's write it out until I do. And hey, now you know a little bit more about me. And you know how they say, like, people who study psychology are a little bit like psycho in the head because, like, who study psychology, right? That used to be the prevalent notion in the world. That's kind of like therapy is like that, but like on a higher level, because similarly, who does therapy to for money? No one does that. And learning about therapy, learning about the theories, the techniques has really given me a unwanted but valuable insight into who I am. And you know, whatever comes, I'd rather be me. I like it. I like me. I like me a lot. And let's just say that sentence, I didn't like that sentence for a while. Definitely didn't come easy. But hey, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. This is probably the longest video I have, about an hour and 5 minutes and counting. So if you enjoy it, I like it. I'm shilling now. But yeah, I mean, if you like it, just like it, I guess. If you don't, then do this dislike buttons on YouTube? I haven't checked yet. If you don't like it, well, then don't like it. That's fine. As always, thanks for listening. And this is as much for me as it is for you. You're fine. You are who you are. Your emotions are valid. Your struggles are valid. I may feel a bit lost right now, me. And that's okay. That's okay. It'll pass. Or if it doesn't, then, I mean, you'll be dead soon and it probably won't matter. So, doesn't really matter. Thanks for watching. And listening. Mostly that, I guess.